I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about that night that nobody understands. Everyone keeps saying my husband left because he was weak, because he couldn't handle pressure, because real men don't run. But the truth is, I'm the one who ruined everything, and here's what really happened. Everyone thinks David is the villain in this story. They see the abandoned wife, the crying children, the empty space in our garage where his truck used to sit. The neighbors whisper about how he couldn't even say goodbye, how he just drove away from 15 years of marriage like it meant nothing. My mother keeps bringing over casseroles and telling me I'm better off without someone who could leave so easily. My sister Sarah wants me to lawyer up and take him for everything. But if I don't tell this story, you'll never understand why he had to leave. Because once you know what I know, you'll see why I left him no choice. This isn't just about a stupid comment I made about men crying. It's about the 4 years of quiet destruction I'd been hiding from everyone, including myself. And the part that makes me look worst, I'm saving that for the end, because you need to understand how I became the kind of person who could drive away someone who loved me so completely. I should have known something was wrong when David started crying during that commercial 3 months ago, the one about the dad watching his daughter get married. I walked in on him wiping his eyes and laughed. Actually laughed. He tried to hide it, but I saw the tears on his cheeks and something inside me snapped. 4 years of frustration came pouring out in the worst possible way. Real men don't cry, I told him. My father never cried a day in his life, and he raised 4 kids during the recession. The look on his face, God, I can still see it. Like I'd slapped him, like I'd reached inside his chest and squeezed his heart until it stopped beating. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is how normal it felt to say something so cruel. How I'd been saying things like that for months, maybe years, and pretending I was just being honest. Looking back, the signs were all there, but I was too proud to see what was coming. I was so focused on making him tougher, stronger, more like the men in my family, that I missed the fact that I was slowly killing everything gentle and beautiful about him. Everyone was trying to warn me about something, but I couldn't see that they meant something bigger than his occasional sadness. Sarah kept asking if David seemed okay. My mother mentioned he'd looked tired at the barbecue. Even our 8-year-old, Emma, asked why Daddy was so quiet lately. But I was so proud of myself for finally getting him to man up that I completely missed the crucial details. I thought I was being smart when I started correcting him in front of the kids, when I made him sleep on the couch after he got emotional during that movie about the dog, when I compared him to my brother Mike, who never shows weakness, even after losing his job. What I didn't realize was that I'd become the kind of wife who tears down instead of builds up, the kind of person who mistakes cruelty for strength. That night, something happened that I've never told anyone about. David came home from work and went straight to the garage. I watched from the kitchen window as he sat in his truck for 20 minutes, head in his hands. When he finally came inside, his eyes were red but dry. He kissed the kids, told them he loved them, and helped with homework. Normal Tuesday night stuff. But there was something different in how he looked at them, like he was trying to memorize their faces. While I was worried about whether he'd cry again during bedtime stories, the real problem was happening right in front of me. David was saying goodbye to his children, and I was too blind to see it. I felt so justified about my comment about real men that I completely missed how he'd stopped sharing things with me. No more stories about work, no more dreams about maybe taking the kids camping, no more talking about feeling overwhelmed or tired or scared about the future. I'd trained him too well. I'd taught him that vulnerability was unacceptable, that emotions were weakness, that being a real man meant suffering in silence. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, I came home 3 days later to find the note on the kitchen counter. Clean handwriting I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. Now it looked like a stranger's script. I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry. Tell the kids I love them. I'll send money. That's when Sarah said something that destroyed me. We were sitting in my kitchen, me sobbing, her trying to make sense of it. She looked at me with this expression I'd never seen before, equal parts pity and anger. Jenny, she said, did you ever stop to think that maybe David needed to cry, that maybe keeping it all inside was killing him slowly? My friends all said he was just going through a phase, but what they didn't know was that I'd been slowly suffocating the man I loved for years. While everyone was liking my Facebook posts about the great family dinner we'd had the week before, I was privately watching my husband disappear piece by piece. The text messages between us tell a different story than what I'm sharing here, one where I mock his sensitivity, where I tell him to grow up, where I compare him to real men who don't feel things so deeply. I know this makes me sound heartless, but you don't understand how I got this way. I watched my own father die young from stress because he never let himself feel anything. I thought I was protecting David, toughening him up, making him survive in a hard world. Looking back, I can see how wrong that was. But in the moment, I was convinced I was helping him live longer by killing his spirit. You're probably thinking I should have noticed he was dying inside, but it gets worse. The real reason I'm telling you this, the thing I've never admitted to anyone, is that part of me felt powerful when I finally broke him. When he sobbed alone in his truck that last morning before disappearing forever, some twisted part of my brain felt victorious, like I'd won something important, like I'd finally made him into the kind of man who could survive anything. I made a decision that destroyed my family, and while everyone's calling me the victim, they don't know the real reason I needed David to be emotionally bulletproof. When I was 12, my 18-year-old brother Tommy killed himself, left a note saying he couldn't handle feeling everything so intensely anymore. My parents never recovered. My mother spent the rest of her life walking around like a ghost, whispering that if Tommy had been stronger, if he'd learned to turn off his feelings like other people did, he'd still be alive. So I became the kind of person who mistakes cruelty for protection, who thinks breaking someone's spirit is the same as saving their life, who watched the kindest, most emotionally available man I'd ever met and decided the best thing I could do for him was teach him to stop feeling. Now, 6 months later, here's where things stand. David sends money like he promised, but through a lawyer. No direct contact, no responses to my desperate emails, no interest in reconciliation, despite my promises to change. He's somewhere in Montana, according to his sister, working construction and apparently building a completely new life without the wife who systematically destroyed everything beautiful about him. The kids ask about him every day. Emma draws him pictures that I don't know where to send. Our son Jake has started having nightmares about being left behind. And I get to explain to them that Mommy made Daddy feel like he couldn't be himself in his own home, so he had to leave to survive. Everyone thinks they know what happened, but the real story changes how you see everything about our supposedly perfect family. I wasn't just the wife of a man who left. I was the architect of his destruction. I built a prison out of my own fear and locked him inside it until escaping was his only option. The worst part about what happened isn't what you think. It's not being alone or raising kids by myself or facing neighbors' pity. It's knowing that somewhere out there, David has learned to cry again, has learned to feel things fully again. But he's doing it somewhere safe, somewhere I can't hurt him anymore. He's probably found someone who loves his tears the way I should have. Someone who sees his beautiful open heart and wants to protect it instead of crushing it. And I'm the woman who taught him that love means leaving when staying becomes fatal. Remember what I said about real men not crying? Here's the truth. Real men do cry. They feel things deeply and share their emotions and let themselves be vulnerable with people they trust. And real women, they don't try to destroy that in the people they love. They don't mistake cruelty for strength or emotional suppression for strength or breaking someone's spirit for saving their life. I told him real men don't cry. He sobbed alone in his car, drove off, and never came back. Thank God he didn't stay. Thank God he got out before I finished the job I'd started. Thank God he's somewhere learning that real men feel everything, even if it took losing everything to teach him that the biggest emotional abuser in his life was the woman who promised to love him forever.